My name is Ayana Contreras. I don't necessarily think of myself first and foremost as an artist. I do think of myself as an archivist. I also think of myself as a curator in the way that I work with sound and ephemeral material, trying to create this narrative through these items. I think as far as Chicago music, I think of myself as being like a conduit for these stories and these narratives. I also think what's important is unlocking those histories, especially for younger people, so that they know that what they're looking at in front of them wasn't always that way and doesn't always have to be that way. The initial piece that was trying to put the records in the show in the first place, I call it the record totem. It's something I designed because what I wanted to do was sort of elevate these things that in a lot of instances would be like thrown out, that nobody cared about, and saying, look at this thing on both sides, really examine this thing and absorb what it is. In this particular show, I think the decision was to take the pieces that really speak to what's happening in the present day, right? That are still totally relevant, even though they're 40 years old or more. Because you can totally look at an older thing and look at it from a nostalgic, oh man, look at those afros perspective, or an aesthetic perspective, these fonts are so great and blah, blah, blah. Or you can look at it from a relevancy angle. There's so many ways to look at it. So what I was mainly thinking of is items that when you look at them, you can have a dialogue with them. They are saying something of the moment that they were created, of the place and space that they were created, and the people who created them. When the show opened up, there was vintage Jet magazines, and there was a whole lot of other items from the post-civil rights era. And when people walked in, there was one person, he was like, what's Jet magazine? So his entry level was, I don't know anything about any of this stuff, but I'm willing to learn. And then there was other people who were having like super nostalgic tears in their eyes, like, oh my God, I thought I'd never see this thing again. That dynamic range of experience kind of was all possible through the exhibition. Because I think the purpose of the residency is to engage with the community. I feel like that was probably the number one thing, the opportunities to connect with people about the work that I'm doing and seeing people's reaction to the work and their entry point into the conversation has been the most valuable thing. I've had more than a few people contact me and say, hey, I've got these records, photos, blah, 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 come get them, because they know that I'm doing something that hopefully will impact the greater community. Like, it's not about the things. Like, the things have value in them. They have information written on them on the liner notes and labels. That's important. But what's even more important is when I have that person sitting in front of me, it's like, tell me about your father, right? Like the way that he collected these records. Tell me about you when you were making these records. Tell me about that, because that's the part that tends to get separated from the artifact. And I'm trying to make sure that that stays. So I'm interested in these immediate unfiltered stories and the stories that sort of would otherwise be lost to time in an era before the internet and before the 24-hour news cycle. I mean, as I'm writing my project for the residency, more and more of it is getting written down. Just trying to take this information and sort of put it in a form that is accessible, because that's really what it's about, right? Like, what is it to collect all this stuff and it just sits in a box? I'm enjoying it, but it's not about me. It's a community project. I like to think of it as something that the community can benefit from.